Okay, so the next thing is to look at the text again because there's no point. And what I noticed as soon as I started listening was that, there are pronunciation errors, and it's not from home, it's actually from and then the name, which is a little bit similar, but it's still quite different. So you can't, you can't use a computer for everything. And this particular website, I think, is quite interesting as well. I don't know if I can move it around. It doesn't seem to like this site. Yeah, here we go. So it's called Trint, and you get 30 minutes free using it, of transcription time, and it's probably the best transcriber that I've ever had. It quite quickly, and it saves you a lot of work. If the pronunciation is really clear, then there's very little to do. But as you can see, this student has some pronunciation areas that will give some very strange words. But even a native speaker speaking really quickly might, it won't quite predict whatever's happening there. But anyway, I'm not really here to explain it, but that I need to go through a lot of this. Now, some of them, like, from to from, is quite easy just to leave it what it's like. But other things like this red zone part here that I highlighted before, this is problematic, and this kind of, you can't really spell it out correctly. So this is where I need to get my phonetics little programo thingo. So to get the word result, and without looking at the IPA chart myself, I'd kind of try a few other different spellings. I typed in here result and a few different ones, and this is pretty much the closest. And it just gives me those little codes that I'm not going to go looking on my computer for. And I can, kind of manipulate these as I need to, just copy and paste them. Now, this website is called tombrondstead.dk, and this is, I find this quite useful. I haven't done that much searching for IPA stuff, but I like how this one works for me. So I'm going to talk about the news out is actually not correct. So this part is actually somehow the result, and Control V. And you can see now I've got my cute little characters, which otherwise would be very hard. It's a result. I don't know how to pronounce it in any other way. So that's what was said, and what it should be is result. Now, I'm still not sure if I should put in the actual phonemes for the word, but I think that the student should notice that there is most definitely a missing T at the end of there. So this student probably comes from Southeast Asia quite easily if you've taught before. And the other thing then is that, these little codes, they're going to break and do strange things in concordances, but they still, at least I think, are better than leaving them unnoticed and not that accurately recorded. So this is still called an error in my case, and it's not really a kind of philosophical thing to discuss right now. Because it does make it difficult to understand. And I'm going to call this pronunciation, and it is a noun. Result is a noun, so I'm going to tag that with N1, a singular noun. Now, on the next line, it still is difficult. It says, I'm going to show you about the result of the red zone, which I think is it sounds like order-zone, and I'm just going to see what it says for me, if it looks right. Order-zone, that looks great. So yeah, I started this the wrong way. Usually I do a full phonemic sort of check on everything. I was just showing you what I usually do with writing. So of the red zone is actually this whole section. There is honorable result of the, and then res zone is actually repeated. Control V, and it's probably more than one word, but I don't quite know. I think it might be recycling, or the recycling, or the rezone, or the recycling. Yeah, all the recycling. So it's just a repetition as they're thinking, probably. So about the result or the rezone, of the rezone, of the rezone, of the. So actually, I think that's now repeating. It hasn't been, yeah, of the. Actually, I think this whole thing needs to be. Where do you see this? It gets quite complex. So I think this part here, I'm gonna cut that out and chuck that in here in the of. There was really there's no sound there. Control V, or the and although the computer actually knows what it is, it substitutes it of. I'm just gonna put the spelling here. If I put OV, it will confuse the student more. De raison is probably an article, and the code is AT for that. And raison, we can just probably say recycling, and put a little question mark next to it, because, I'm human, I can't read your mind. And that's basically it. So this here is probably a, I'd call that pron error. And the this is also another pron pronunciation. This is probably the weakest point for this student, is pronunciation. Otherwise, she's really strong at everything, and most of the time we know what she's talking about. Again, I've forgotten my codes, but it's clear that from phonemic script what it is. Oh, no, sorry. I'm looking at the wrong one. And I'll put capital THE. That way it's that TH sound, but usually I just copy that phoneme in. Easy enough to do that while I'm recording, I hope. And it's those ones there. And control copy and paste. Again, these philosophical issues. Should I just write that capital THE? And I said to myself, there are times when I want my students to use phonemic script, and if they have pronunciation errors, then I think that's a good time for them to start to learn it. Otherwise, I don't really push my students